Hey guys, welcome back to the After Hours. I'm the A-Tail Beast, and today we're going to talk about expectations and misinformation. So let's get into it. All right, guys. First off, happy holidays. Now, history tells us that October is the cutoff for normal trading. That's before we get into more volatile markets. Now, why is that? That's because it's earnings season, it's tax season, and it's midterm elections. And it's all in time for the holidays. Why the volatility? It's because it's the fourth quarter. Now, speculative investors, they're throwing Hail Mary passes. They're making risky trades trying to beat their records. The normal people, they're planning their vacations. They're trying to make sure they're at home for the holidays, and that removes liquidity from the market. The corporate investors, they're scrambling so they can meet their earnings expectations. That's especially the case this year. Most investments are in the red with massive losses. Everyone is negative. We could see a temporary bounce from something as little as tax harvesting. That's when a hedge fund locks in their red print to write off their taxes. Now, if this does create a temporary rally, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just a part of the normal market psychology. This psychology is called the January effect. That's when the investor sells his winners to collect profits at year-end capital gain taxes, before he messes it up, changing it the next day. They use the funds to speculate on weaker performers like small caps, penny stocks. Now, this kind of reminds me of the Christmas sell-off that we saw in recent years. But we also know that a drop at the end of the year can happen for several reasons because there's just too many factors involved, especially this year. Let's just say the market is really sensitive right now. Now, it's so bad to the point that companies and even entire countries have stopped projecting growth because they fear how the people will react. Overall, investors are desperate for optimism. They're thirsty for something good. This includes misinformation from the media. Now we can see just how easy it is for misinformation to spark a rally, especially if we look at recent articles and headlines in England. Now, we saw this article stating that a pause in the QE from the BOE, but after the news hit the futures market, it caused a temporary rally until shortly after another article was released with a statement from the BOE denying the report. Now, there goes another cheap blow below the belt to the world economy before it goes down. Now, stopping the projection from the countries and companies, that does have a proactive approach to limit the control from the headlines. But let's be real. Even without the interference from the headlines and media, everyone is losing in the markets right now. Now, Wall Street Journal says day traders are going back to their day jobs. Now, we still managed to have a small rally because the media says corporate earnings are beating their expectations. That means we beat some analysts' expectations. Maybe the market saved. Now, we know how powerful expectations can be. Look at Netflix. There were 2 solid days where it was cutting into thirds. There was one day where Netflix dropped 35% in one day, and the catalyst was around its earnings, but it was mostly the projection that led to extremely negative expectations. Once they mentioned that there was slowing growth and they were putting down their Q4 expectations, the stock plummeted 35%. At this point, no one knows what to do until the central banks make a move, especially the Fed after elections. Now, expectations of a Fed pivot are still circulating, completely ignoring the increased inflation reports from the PCE and CPI. But everything's going to be okay because President Biden says our market is strong as hell. Everyone else is the one with a weak policy, and he's worried about the rest of the people in the world. Now, we've seen it all this year, from early leaks to misinformation to negative projections to pump and dumps. It's untradeable. Now, speaking of pump, let's talk about inflation in food prices and oil. Normal to see a flux in prices in general, which is why the Fed looks at core inflation and regulates the supply and demand. Now, this is attempts to solve the problem slowly and fundamentally. Now, in the meantime, we need more drastic and quick measures. And so President Biden was on duty when prices were rising in 2021. And the people put 1 and 2 together, and boom, his popularity poll started dropping.
Under the leadership of President Biden, who has done a spectacular job. He's had a better 2 years than most presidents that you can name, certainly in the recent generations. He has, again, with the rescue package, with the...
Now, in response, President Biden dipped into the emergency oil reserves, the SPR, and he assured energy security was not at risk because he planned to refill the reserves when they became cheaper. Now let's take this a step back. We're selling oil from the emergency reserve, not because we have a shortage in oil, but because we have a shortage in oil refineries. And now we're asking / begging from OPEC and other countries to give us oil. And his words were echoed throughout the White House that he plans to refill when prices go down. Well, the fact is prices are starting to go up because his guy just cut the supply by 2 million barrels per day. Now remember, prices fluctuate. Maybe the cut was to regulate the demand to match the supply. But another fact is that Biden just failed a deal with Saudi, our biggest provider, and he just suppressed our domestic OPEC companies. And President Biden only asked that he delay the cut by at least 1 month while the US figures out how they want to respond to OPEC's decision. But the narrative right now is it's a political scheme to bleed US's cash in Russia's favor. Remember, the narrative is Russia versus the rest of the world. Speaking of that, Europe just bought 50% more of their natural gas from Russia. I have this feeling that maybe Russia might want to blow up their LNG ships just like how they blow up their own pipeline. But that's all I got for you guys. If you like the content, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.